Being a scientist probably isn't as fascinating as many people imagine. You spend half of your life studying things, and then when you're done, you spend the rest of it answering people who always demand explanations for things that barely make any sense. And sometimes, no matter how much you've learned, there simply isn't an answer. And here, in this video, we're going to show you some of the mysterious ancient discoveries that shouldn't exist, but they do. So, let's begin with number 15, the Teka, ancient giants of Nevada. Most people see giants as biblical creatures or myths invented by people to explain fear, war, and what they simply can't understand. But in Nevada's Lovelock Cave, the story became far real once archaeologists started digging. Long before excavations began, the Paiute people spoke about the Teka, a violent tribe of red-haired giants said to practice cannibalism and terrorize nearby tribes. According to the story, the final survivors were trapped inside the cave and burned alive after warriors sealed the entrance with fire and smoke. Then came the discoveries. In 1911, miners digging through thick guano deposits uncovered thousands of ancient artifacts buried beneath the cave floor. Archaeologists later found giant-sized sandals, duck decoys, woven baskets, tools, and dozens of mummies dating back nearly 5,000 years. Some reports even described unusually tall skeletons with reddish hair. But the mystery stretched far beyond one cave. Across America, strange burial mounds containing oversized bones appeared in newspaper reports throughout the 19th century before many of the remains mysteriously vanished, fueling rumors of a Smithsonian cover-up that still refuses to disappear. Number 14. The Illinois Coal Bell. A 10-year-old boy named Newton Anderson was simply carrying coal into his family's basement in 1944 when something impossible happened. One lump slipped from his hands and cracked open on the floor. Instead of breaking into ordinary black fragments, a small brass bell dropped out from inside the coal itself. The object carried decorative carvings, a visible iron clapper, and signs of deliberate metal craftsmanship. That alone would have been strange enough, but the real problem came from the coal seam where it originated. That coal came from the Willow Mine in Illinois, a carboniferous deposit estimated to be nearly 300 million years old, long before humans, mammals, or even dinos existed. Researchers who later examined the bell claimed the coal surrounding it showed no evidence of tampering or resealing. Critics dismissed the story as contamination or exaggeration, but no convincing explanation ever settled the argument. The bell eventually disappeared from serious scientific discussion, yet the story survived because it raises a deeply uncomfortable possibility about how old human technology might actually be. Number 13. The Salzburg Cube. In 1885, workers at a foundry in Austria made a discovery that immediately triggered confusion among scientists and engineers. While breaking apart a block of coal from the Wolfsegg mines, a laborer found a strange metallic object shaped almost like a cube. This artifact was about 7 centimeters and carried a deep groove running around its middle, giving it the appearance of a deliberately manufactured machine component. Because the coal came from deposits millions of years old, many people believed the object represented evidence of advanced technology existing long before modern civilization. The artifact became known as the Salzburg Cube, but it was also called the Wolfsegg Iron because of the mining region where it appeared. For years, photos of the object circulated through books about ancient mysteries and lost civilizations. Some researchers even suggested extraterrestrial origins because the shape looked unnaturally precise for a geological formation. Later metallurgical studies offered a simpler explanation. Experts concluded the cube was probably a 19th-century cast iron machine part accidentally mixed into mining material. The original object disappeared long ago during World War II. Number 12. The Levitating Stone of Shiva Dargah. India has always been surrounded by stories that sound impossible, and one of the strangest comes from the village of Shivapur near Pune. Inside a small shrine known as the Kamar Ali Darvesh Dargah, sits a stone weighing around 150 pounds that locals claim can rise into the air. According to tradition, 11 men must stand around the stone, place one finger beneath it, and repeat the name of the saint linked to the shrine. Witnesses say the stone suddenly lifts upward as if its weight disappears for a brief moment. The ritual has existed for generations, and visitors still travel there, hoping to see it happen themselves. Skeptics argue that the effect comes from balance, rhythm, and synchronized lifting rather than anything supernatural. Still, many people who witness the ritual insist the movement feels unnatural once the chant begins. The mystery became even more famous after comparisons were made to Coral Castle in Florida, where Edward Leedskalnin somehow moved big stones alone using methods he never shared. Number 11. The Nazca Tomb Excavation Halt. The Nazca civilization already carries an atmosphere of mystery because of the enormous geoglyphs carved into Peru's desert floor. That mystery became even darker in 2013 after archaeologists discovered what appeared to be a sealed underground tomb complex near the Nazca region. Ground-penetrating radar revealed multiple chambers extending beneath the desert, including unusually large spaces deeper underground. Excavation teams began carefully uncovering stone stairways and sealed entrances that appeared untouched for centuries. Early reports described sophisticated stonework and construction techniques more advanced than researchers expected from ordinary Nazca burials. The most important detail involved sealed chambers that showed no signs of ancient looting. Then the excavation suddenly stopped. Peru's Ministry of Culture revoked the team's permits and ordered the site closed before deeper chambers could be opened. According to people involved in the dig, officials confiscated documentation and ordered the entrance buried again beneath dirt and stone. Researchers later claimed radar scans suggested metallic objects existed deeper inside the complex. To this day, the sealed chambers remain untouched beneath the Peruvian desert. Number 10. The Shroud of Turin and the UFO connection. The Shroud of Turin has been debated for centuries because nobody can fully explain how its image was created. The cloth carries the faint outline of a man who appears to have suffered injuries similar to crucifixion wounds described in the Bible. For many Christians, it represents the burial cloth of Jesus Christ. For scientists, it remains one of the most controversial religious artifacts ever studied. What makes the shroud unusual is the nature of the image itself. It does not behave like ordinary paint or traditional artwork. When photographed, the image acts almost like a photographic negative, revealing details that are difficult to see with the naked eye. Radiocarbon dating performed in 1988 suggested the cloth originated during the medieval era. But some researchers still question the testing methods because parts of the fabric may have been repaired centuries later. The UFO connection appeared much later through theories claiming the image may have formed through an intense burst of radiation or energy. Well, most scientists reject these claims, but the mystery surrounding the cloth still keeps the theories alive. Number 9. The Blue Lights of Crevikiel. In County Sligo, the ancient tomb of Crevikiel has stood for more than 5,000 years, surviving storms, wars, and centuries of silence. Archaeologists classify it as a court tomb built during the Neolithic era, around 3500 BCE. But local stories surrounding the site never remained entirely archaeological. For generations, people living near the monument spoke about strange blue lights appearing around the stones after sunset. Witnesses described glowing flashes moving quietly between the chambers without sound or a visible source. Some believed the lights were connected to spirits, while others associated them with ancient rituals once performed there. Irish folklore surrounding the tomb also mentions voices near the stones and warnings about disturbing the site without respect. Excavations during the 20th century revealed that the location was reused long after the Neolithic era. Researchers discovered evidence of an early Christian metalworking forge placed directly beside the tomb, suggesting later communities also believed the site carried unusual significance. Today, tourists visit during daylight, but locals still avoid going near it after dark whenever the atmosphere begins changing unexpectedly. Number 8. Gantenbrink's Door in the Great Pyramid. Back in 1993, German engineer Rudolf Gantenbrink sent a small robot into one of the narrow shafts hidden inside the Great Pyramid of Giza. The machine, called Upuaut 2, crawled through passages no human could enter and stopped in front of something completely unexpected. Blocking the shaft was a small limestone door fitted with 2 copper handles. The discovery immediately sparked worldwide attention because nobody expected hidden doors inside sealed pyramid shafts. Many researchers believed a secret chamber might exist beyond the stone, untouched for more than 4,000 years. Gantenbrink planned to drill a tiny hole through the barrier and send a camera behind it. Then the project suddenly ended. Egyptian authorities removed him from the site and suspended further exploration. Nearly a decade later, another team finally drilled through the first door during a televised event. What appeared behind it only deepened the mystery. A second stone door stood waiting several inches farther inside. More than 20 years later, the second door remains sealed, and no public investigation has continued beyond it. Number 7. Richmond Rat Boy. Some museum stories feel less like history and more like the beginning of a horror film. That was the atmosphere surrounding the so-called Richmond Rat Boy after a mysterious package appeared outside the Wayne County Historical Museum in Indiana. Nobody knew who delivered it. There was no clear explanation. Inside sat a grotesque figure resembling a tiny human-rat hybrid with shriveled skin, claws, and distorted facial features. A note claimed the object had once belonged to a circus performer and was discovered years earlier in the basement of an abandoned hospital. Museum staff quickly suspected it was probably a gaffe, a fake creature designed for old carnival sideshows during the early 20th century. Experts believe plaster, animal remains, clay, and artificial hair may have been combined to create the disturbing figure. Still, the object unsettled nearly everyone who handled it because the craftsmanship looked strangely convincing in person. The mystery that continues to bother people is not whether the Rat Boy is real. It is why someone left it anonymously and disappeared without ever returning. Number 6. Shiva Linga. Along the Shalmala River in Karnataka, thousands of Shiva lingas appear across the riverbed whenever the water level drops during certain seasons. The site is known as Sahasra Linga, which literally means 1,000 lingas, and many of the carvings are believed to date back to the Kadamba dynasty around the 2nd century CE. Pilgrims still travel there during Mahashivaratri because the stone carvings create an atmosphere that feels ancient even before the rituals begin. In Hindu tradition, the Shiva Linga represents creation, destruction, and the endless cycle of existence. But outside religious circles, the structure has attracted stranger interpretations. Some ancient astronaut theorists claim the shape resembles advanced energy devices or symbolic representations of cosmic power. Others connect the design to concepts of atomic energy because of its balance between creation and destruction. Historians reject those theories and explain the lingas as sacred religious symbols, but still, no one knows the real truth. Number 5. Islands that don't exist. Old maritime maps contain a mystery that still bothers historians and cartographers today. For centuries, sailors reported islands that later vanished completely from modern maps. Some captains claimed they landed there, described vegetation, measured coastlines, and even recorded animals living on the islands. Yet when satellites and modern expeditions checked those exact locations, nothing was there, except open ocean. One of the most famous examples is Sandy Island in the Coral Sea between Australia and New Caledonia. The island appeared on maps for nearly 200 years until an Australian research vessel visited the coordinates in 2012 and found only deep water. Similar stories surround places like Emerald Island and High Brazel, phantom lands reported repeatedly across different centuries. Scientists usually explain the disappearances through navigation errors, volcanic activity, floating pumice formations, or mistaken sightings caused by fog and unusual weather conditions. Even so, the mystery continues because many reports came from experienced sailors familiar with the sea. Number 4. Norimitsu Dachi. Japan has preserved many legendary weapons, but nothing feels as unnatural as the Norimitsu Dachi. The sword measures nearly 13 feet long and weighs around 30 pounds, making it far too massive for ordinary combat. Even trained warriors would struggle simply lifting it from the ground, let alone fighting with it effectively. Historians believe the blade was forged during the 15th century by the Osafune Norimitsu school, one of Japan's respected sword-making traditions. Yet the purpose behind such an enormous weapon remains uncertain. Some researchers think it may have been ceremonial, displayed inside shrines, or carried during important processions as a symbol of status and military prestige. Still, the sword's impossible scale created darker legends over time. Japanese folklore often speaks about giant warriors and supernatural beings roaming ancient mountains and forests. Because of that, many people quietly wonder whether the blade was inspired by stories far older than recorded history itself. The Norimitsu Dachi survives today not as a weapon of war, but as an object suspended strangely between craftsmanship, mythology, and unanswered historical curiosity. Number 3. The Kherlen Fortress tomb. Eastern Mongolia holds countless forgotten ruins, but the Kherlen Fortress feels tied to a moment when entire empires were collapsing at once. The site dates back to the final years of the Khitan Liao Empire, just before the Mongols began expanding under Genghis Khan. Huge defensive walls still stretch across the landscape, surrounding circular and rectangular compounds built for protection during a dangerous and unstable time. Inside one fortified enclosure, archaeologists uncovered the tomb of a woman buried inside a wooden coffin. She wore a yellow silk robe and an elaborate headdress, while objects placed beside her included coral beads, silver vessels, gold jewelry, and imported glass. Those items revealed something important immediately. This woman was connected to powerful trade networks stretching far beyond Mongolia itself. Yet historians still do not know who she was or why she received such extraordinary burial treatment during a period of political collapse. The fortress remains silent about her identity, leaving wealth, walls, and unanswered history buried together beneath the Mongolian steppe. Number 2. The Karahunj. Highlands in Armenia contain a stone site that feels unsettling the moment you see it. Karahunj stretches across nearly 70,000 square meters and contains more than 200 standing stones arranged in circles and long formations across the landscape. Many stones contain carefully drilled holes that create eerie whistling sounds whenever strong wind passes through them, which is why locals sometimes call them the speaking stones. Researchers began serious studies during the 1980s, though the site itself may date back thousands of years earlier than Stonehenge, according to some theories. Several archaeologists believe Karahunj may have functioned as an ancient observatory because certain stones appear aligned with celestial events, including solstices and star movements. Bronze Age tombs and pottery discovered nearby suggest the area remained important for generations. Yet nobody fully understands who built the site or why so much effort was spent arranging stones across such difficult terrain. Number 1. The Nampa image. Back in 1889, workers drilling a deep well near Nampa brought up something no one expected from hundreds of feet underground. Mixed with wet sediment from nearly 320 feet below the surface was a tiny clay figurine shaped like a human form. Despite damage from the drilling process, researchers could still identify arms, legs, facial structure, and decorative markings carved into the object. The real mystery involved the geological layer where it reportedly originated. Scientists examining the surrounding deposits identified them as Pliocene sediments estimated to be around 2 million years old. That created a major contradiction, because pottery and ceramic art are believed to have appeared only within the last several thousand years of human history. Geologists studying the drill site claimed the layers showed no obvious signs of intrusion or surface contamination. Multiple workers also confirmed the figurine emerged directly with material pumped from deep underground. Over time, the original artifact disappeared from public view, leaving behind photos and one uncomfortable possibility that artistic human-like activity may have existed far earlier than we're told. Well, hope you found this video interesting. Thanks for watching and be sure to like and subscribe. We'll see you soon.